Hi guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, and most of you are new looking at the analytic numbers, be sure to subscribe. I upload every single day. I conduct analysis that I deem most important and relevant to the sickness that is infesting our culture, being the woke mind virus and of course Marxism as the underlying ideological substructure to that woke mind virus. Again, if you're new here, welcome, because this is what we call a lit channel. But guys, so I just yesterday uploaded my analysis to the Putin interview. Interesting information about that. That actually took like 3.5 to 4 hours, almost 4 hours to fully analyze. Throughout the analysis, I thought that I would upload the entire 4 hours, but afterwards I thought I'm just going to provide the most important parts that I think are relevant. That's why the video, if you look at the video, it starts at about 2.5 hours in, where things really get into the nitty-gritty of the CIA, of the global agendas at play. Anyway, let's get to this topic. There's a lot of things that could be talked about here. This tweet by Andrew Tate is very interesting because he's correct and he also is incorrect in some ways. Andrew Tate did watch the interview. He tweeted a picture of him watching the Putin interview, and I wondered what his perspective would be, given that he is from America, but he's a Romanian citizen and has loudly spoken out against the West, condemned the West multiple times. And that's where I would disagree with Andrew Tate. I don't think the West needs to be condemned, as it is the greatest moral light the world has ever seen, and it is just experiencing a sickness. And I don't mean to downplay the severity of that sickness, of the illness of Marxism, but if we won't fight here, then where will we fight, and for what logical reason would we fight, let's say, in the Middle East or Eastern Europe, or even in Europe, against the woke mind virus, but not here in America? To me, a purely anti-American sentiment is nothing more than low-resolution resentment, similar to that which defines Marxism. Putin did highlight repeatedly, as Andrew Tate says, that the West will never treat him fairly. Never's a long time. Of course, I understand Putin's reasoning and his experience as well. The issue, I think, is more along the lines of the West not treating anyone fairly. NATO as a structure is heavily outdated and a response to the Cold War, which isn't the threat that the globe is facing now. The threats that we're facing are ideological. They're not from armies or missiles. Those things still exist, but the warfare has changed. Putin is an enemy of the West. I don't want anyone to watch my analysis and not realize that I understand that. I understand completely that Putin is not friends with us, but that doesn't change the fact that he is engaging in objective frameworks like reason and rationality, while we demonize those mechanisms as oppressive. And when I say we, I'm talking about the current regime in power, the ideological belief that possesses the left that tells them that any notions of objectivity are by default corrupt and oppressive. This is a mind virus. It's a brain rot. Andrew Tate correctly points out that Putin has no reason to want to fix our problems, but because he is rational, because he is logical, his diagnoses of the problems in the analysis that I showed you is correct. In fact, a YouTube short, which is being censored, of course, by YouTube, that I published hours ago explaining that, shows a clip of Putin clearly saying the West is experiencing a mental illness on a large scale. Putin isn't here to save our patriotic Westerners. It's correct. I'm also interested. I'd like to talk to Andrew Tate about what he thinks about the patriotic Westerners, the American patriot that isn't possessed by the woke mind virus, because he is clearly allied with them insofar as he is battling the forces of darkness. Whether or not he understands them to be deeply aligned with Marxism, that understanding is clearly not there, and that's something that I'd want to explain to him in depth. But I'd like to know how Andrew Tate himself regards truly patriotic Westerners. I know that he respects them. Putin talked about how he has new alliances and is trading in currencies. That was a very interesting part of the interview that a lot of people aren't talking about. This is funny. I don't think it was a flex, him talking about that. I think he genuinely thought that history was directly relevant. I think that he genuinely thought that history was strictly relevant to what he was doing in Ukraine and justified it. I think that he believes that. Ask your leaders. Putin did repeat this a lot, and I think that it demonstrates, again, his discontentment with the West and how he knows that he will never be treated fairly. It's the utterance of someone who knows that they are, in some ways, beyond dialogue. He knows that the West, in the way it is currently formatted with this woke mind virus and power, I wouldn't say in power because it's being heavily challenged by Elon Musk, but it is predominant, for sure. Is predominant too strong a word? It's an existential threat in the West, for sure. He knows that he can't have dialogue in good faith with any type of Western leadership because their allegiances are to so many different things, the CIA, NATO, that he can't sit down with a president like Biden and say, here are the logical parameters, let's make a deal based on just these logical parameters, because the current regime isn't interested in just logical parameters, which is a massive problem. That is our problem. That's not his problem. Never interrupt your enemy when he was making a mistake. I mean, that's in the 48 Laws of Power. That's not just Napoleon Bonaparte. That's basically in every book written about warfare that exists. Do not interrupt your enemy when he is blundering. And that's definitely what Putin thinks about. Now, I want to emphasize again how this sickness of the West is being manifested even in response to the massive call out of that sickness by this Tucker Carlson Putin interview. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that, but it's still so eerie to see people completely throw away their reasoning faculties to replace it with the demonization tactics of Marxism, where they just slander any person they disagree with without providing a shred of justification for their anger and hatred. In fact, their justification is to be unspoken, which is that they disagree with us, therefore they're bad people. And because they're bad people, we don't have to contend with anything they have to say. This has been a long-standing presupposition of the left. That's the reason why they've gone after Trump for 8 years in a row. But this is dangerous because it prevents us from thinking. It prevents us from engaging in the mechanism called dialogue, powered by free speech, which is why free speech isn't just a right. It's a mechanism that provides us with truth. For us to distance ourselves with that mechanism is disastrous. It's catastrophic. We won't survive unless we beat this sickness that detests and resents frameworks of coherence and logic. And even the conceptual understanding of an objective truth itself is deemed oppressive and barbarically corrupt by left-wing ideologues. And they truly are ideologues. People think that they're thinking. There are millions of people that are on Twitter, there are millions of people that are elsewhere that when they engage in what they formulate as the political landscape, believe that they are thinking. But in fact, they are just regurgitating ideological statements. A person isn't truly thinking unless they are engaging in the mechanisms of reason and logic. And it is so perverse to believe that they are corrupt mechanisms, not only because that is an inversion of truth, meaning the opposite of truth, since those mechanisms actually reveal truth, but they attribute those very attributes to people like Putin. Putin doesn't own logic and reason. He's simply using them because it provides him an advantage. We are doing the opposite of using them. We are demonizing them. We are bastardizing those things, calling them oppressive, saying that we are good people as a result of rejecting logic and reason. And if you guys are thinking, where's the evidence of this? I'll show you examples of people just completely losing their brains. Now, this is a perfect example of ideological possession. This woman is slandering Snoop Dogg. I don't care about Snoop Dogg at all, but the point is that she's slandering him for going against the woke hive mind. It's so ideological, it is so empty, it is so eerie, it is so dangerous. I'm still shocked and devastated that Snoop Dogg chose to publicly endorse the traitor. Ad hominem attack, anti-reality number one. Man, you broke my heart, siding with a fucking white supremacist. 2, racist. 3, rapist. 4, fascist, Nazi. 5, 6, how could you? They don't care that their slander has no bearing in reality. They don't care that nothing that they say is backed by logic and reason, because they actually have been taught to demonize logic and reason to the point where they don't even realize that they're doing it when they do it. This is how we get to incredibly dangerous places in history where we see people committing insane atrocities. It's because they've been disconnected from their faculties of objective reasoning. All of this is very simple when you think about it. People are opposed to truth. People are battling objective truth, not just individual instances of what objective truth can constitute. They are at war with the notion, with the concept of an objective truth existing. Because if something is objective, that means it is outside their opinion and their feelings and their ideology, meaning that they are subservient to it, meaning that they are judged by an objective truth. It's the same reason people are triggered when they see men working out at the gym, because the physical shape of someone who is in shape and clearly showing physical excellence judges, by comparison, every single person that chooses to be out of shape. This is also the reason why people demonize billionaires, because to succeed in the meritocratic system of capitalism judges brutally and harshly every single person that does not succeed. The demonization of Marxism, of the left, has a symmetry to it. It has an architecture that is understandable. Their incoherence has a comprehensible structure to it that can be analyzed once you understand the objections, the disgusting, depraved, reprehensible objections Marxism has with reality itself. I'm going to go play StarCraft to clear my brain, maybe listen to Jordan Peterson to intellectually recover. We're already in the third war of civilization.